California Governor Gavin Newsom has surprisingly defied Donald Trump and his efforts to attempt to steal the midterm elections through gerrymandering. Now, during a recent rally where Newsom talked about his plan to do their own partisan gerrymandering redistricting, because that's what it is, and then, of course, an attempt to push back against what they're doing in Texas, ICE decided to pay a little visit outside of the rally. You see, about the same time Newsom held his rally at the Japanese American National Museum in downtown LA, immigration was right outside arresting people. Now, Newsom again held the event to announce his own redistricting effort in California as a response to the Texas GOP's massively gerrymandered map that was made and that they're trying to vote on. Okay, they're trying to, of course, Texas Democrats are not allowing that quorum to be held, and so there's been a bit of a standoff on all of that. Nonetheless, right, you're only supposed to redraw congressional maps every 10 years after a census. But Trump said, no, I want more seats because I'm afraid that we're going to get wiped out in the midterms. And so I want you to draw me a map that is going to maximize my chances of keeping control of the House of Representatives. And that map, of course, would eliminate 5 Democratic seats in Texas. And so that could potentially negate any increase in Democratic turnout in the midterm elections and allow Trump to keep control of the trifecta of government. Now, that said, Newsom and his press team had posted a response to that raid, saying Border Patrol has showed up at our big, beautiful press conference. We will not be intimidated. Now, Newsom himself also acknowledged that raid during his speech.
You know what Donald Trump knows. He's going to lose the midterms. He knows de facto his presidency ends in 17 months when Speaker Jeopardize is back in office. He knows it. Why else? Why else would you try to rig the system? Why else would you make the phone call? He's a failed president. Who else sends ICE same time having a conversation like this? Someone who's weak. Someone who's broken. Someone whose weakness is masquerading as strength. The most unpopular president in modern history.
Okay, so look, I've got my issues with Gavin Newsom. Okay, I'm just going to be very clear about that, right? However, unlike a lot of the establishment Democrats, which is what Newsom is, he's also an establishment Democrat, he seems to at least be able to understand the assignment here and how to deal with Donald Trump. Basically, you cannot play nicey nice with the guy. You actually have to fight fire with fire. Now, I hate what's going on with this redistricting war, okay? But at the same time, right, it looks like doing this in response to what Texas is doing is at least trying to take some sort of action against Trump outside of writing strongly worded letters, because those have been effective. I mean, look, yes, Newsom, and by the way, Pritzker and there are other Democratic governors that are standing up. At least they're trying to do something to try to prevent Republicans from rigging the midterms, because that's what they're doing. Now, that said, after the event, Newsom had even more to say. Take a look.
Well, I think it's pretty sick and pathetic. And it just said everything you need to know, the setting that we're under. That they chose the time, manner, and place to send their district director outside right when we're about to have this press conference. It said everything you know about Donald Trump's America. And that was top down. You know that for a fact. They'll deny it, I'm sure. Maybe they won't deny it. It said everything you know about the authoritarian tendencies of the President of the United States. I said in a moment ago, wake up, America. Wake up. You will not have a country if he rigs this election. You will have a president who will be running for a 3rd term. Mark my word. I wasn't exaggerating when I said that I received in the mail a Trump 2028 hat from one of his biggest supporters. These guys are not screwing around. The rules do not apply to him. The most corrupt president in history. He doesn't believe in free enterprise, crony capitalism. He is wrecking this country, wrecking the economy. He's a lawless president. Wake up, America. Wake up to what's going on.
Look, he's not wrong. Okay, he's not wrong. Now, understand that for me, as a leftist, okay, I'm looking at all this and I'm like, God damn, the bar is low. Okay, so much so that Gavin Newsom, who again is a member of the establishment who threw transgender people and the unhoused under the bus, I can understand though, right, that why Gavin Newsom is getting so much love from normie Democrats, and it's because he's actually showing up to the fight. Turns out all you had to do was just show up. And so that's what he's doing. And understand, too, that this reflects very poorly on the rest of the Democratic leadership who has stayed out of the fight, okay? Because it shows how pathetic they are. Now, there are, of course, exceptions. AOC, Pritzker, Crockett, and a few others have been pretty tough on Donald Trump, and so credit where credit is due, right? What I'm talking about here is Democratic leadership, which has been incredibly weak and pathetic, okay? Ineffectual. And so, I think that's because a lot of them are intimidated. Not only that, but they have this weirdo idea, this hope of bringing in the mythical never Trump Republicans. And so, oh, we can't criticize Republicans. Can't criticize Republicans. Can't do it because we're trying to get Republicans here. And I think the reason that they're so focused on that is because they would rather appeal to Republicans than appeal to those of us on the left. And you know why? It's because the left actually asks for things. And they hate it when the left asks for things. They constantly call it purity testing, right? But in reality, of course, we're just asking for things that the American people want. For example, healthcare, okay? Or actual policies that help the American people, or, you know, to not go after and criminalize transgender people and the unhoused. How about we don't do that? Or how about we actually help the unhoused? And the best way to help them is to give them homes, okay? Places to live. But anyway, I know, I'm purity testing, right? Here we go again. That said, I'm still going to give Newsom, in this context, credit. I believe in credit where credit is due, okay? And Newsom, again, showing actual backbone against Donald Trump. And I think that if you actually do celebrate that, even if you're not, again, like me, a fan of Newsom and have no intentions of supporting him or voting for him or anything like that, but if you celebrate that and say, yes, this is the way to do it, do more of it, please, then perhaps more of the establishment will follow suit and perhaps start putting up a little bit more actual resistance, or maybe some actual resistance. Now, and of course, there's a lot of talk about, oh, this is just Newsom playing for president, right? He's going to do a potential run in 2028. Yeah, probably. And you know what I say? Smart. That's smart. You know why? Because Democratic normie voters, they do want someone who's actually fighting back. I mean, you see it every time. You saw it with Cory Booker, for example, right? With his 24-hour filibuster, right? So he stood up and then did that. And yes, of course, it was a stunt. But normie Democrats were like, oh my God, somebody's fighting against Donald Trump. Rally, 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 rally. Seems like it's pretty easy to do. What they're looking for is to someone to fight against Donald Trump, okay? To someone actually to stand up. And so it's amazing that a lot of the Democratic politicians do not seem to be getting that message that their voters do want someone to stand up, okay, and fight back. And again, no, I will not vote for Gavin Newsom in a primary election. I'm not interested in another corporate candidate. That said, he might be actually setting the trend for more Democrats to take active resistance against Donald Trump. And ultimately, I think in the short term, that's going to be a good thing. A good thing. It is good to fight against fascism. But that said, in the long term, those of us on the left, we should continue to keep focusing on fighting the conditions, fighting against the conditions that created someone like Donald Trump. And those conditions, of course, happen to be rampant neoliberal centrism. So again, short term, good. Long term, let's look and attack the real conditions and vote for politicians that will actually fight against neoliberalism, centrism, and point us towards a more progressive, inclusive future. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon in order to get notified whenever a new video is released. And if you want to support independent, progressive media through this difficult time where it seems like everybody is shutting down, you can become a member on our YouTube page, you can become a subscriber on Facebook, or you can go to my Patreon. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. Thank you.